this working? Okay. Okay. So from the United States, good morning and good evening to the Philippines, and hello to the rest of the world. So hello to our subscribers to the share tank. Please do continue supporting the channel by keep by keeping by keep on watching and sharing the videos. For those who are listening live and listening to the soon to the recorded stream, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe, share the videos, leave some comments, and click the like button. So today is July 3rd in the United States of America. So that means today is the eve of the US Independence Day's commemoration or celebration. So tomorrow, July 4th, here in the United States, we will be celebrating with our American friends, brothers and sisters and families for the nation's Independence Day. So for those who are not aware, tomorrow, that would be July 4th, 2020, you can greet your friends and families in the United States by saying Happy 4th. Ayun. So again, you can greet uh, your families and friends in the United States. In short, the shortest way to greet them in commemoration of the Independence Day in the United States is just simply say Happy 4th. Okay? So that means because of July 4th. So just a quick review of history, a very quick and not so in-depth review of history. So the 4th of July is one of the favorite national holidays in the United States. Independence Day, uh, the commemoration of the Independence Day celebrates the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, unifying the colonies and freeing the colonists from the rule of King George III. That's according to Mr. Nazir Kazimine, chairman of the Ellis Island Honor Society, or EIHS. And according to a researcher from Pew Research Center, Abigail Geiger, on the 4th of July, Americans celebrate the birth of a nation and the values that have sustained the country and its democracy in the nearly 250 years since the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. Americans' view vary when it comes to how they see the United States standing in the world and the state of its democracy. So speaking of democracy, how does it relate to education? What is the role of democracy to education? What is the role of education to democracy? And how do we support democracy through education as teachers, school administrators, parents, and students in the age of accountability? So in this live stream and later in this video, a recorded video, I will talk about uh, this as a former teacher in the United States and a current student slash researcher in a US university. So having said that, please take note that my knowledge is definitely incomplete, but this channel is about what we know so far, okay? And we will not claim to be academic experts. And I have been here for about, what, uh, maybe 4 years, okay, going for my 5th year. So my objective for this live stream or video is for those especially who aspire to be a teacher or currently teaching in the US to be aware of some important views and issues in the American education. So I hope also to give a bit of an idea about some aspects of the American education to other researchers or educators outside the US and those who are in a country with democratic form of government. And by the way, just a side note, um, democracy is important for us, especially for Filipinos, and this also would explain why we have a good relationship with the Americans because it is the Americans who brought to us democracy, right? Though the founders are the Greeks, but Americans brought to us democracy. And since we are in the field of education, it is from the Americans where we had an idea in to have a public education in the Philippines. So to celebrate with the Americans during their Independence Day would maybe mean a lot to them. Okay, so in this live stream, in again in the later recorded video, there are three heavy words that we will be discussing today. These words are democracy, education, and accountability. Okay, so just for a while, okay, just to check whether there are comments so far, especially if there are things that I have said. Okay, so I think we're still good to go. Okay, so again, we will talk about these three big words: democracy, education, and accountability. So what do these words mean and how do they relate to each other? Okay, so according to Oxford Languages, and since we are quoting from a dictionary, this is a digital dictionary, an online dictionary. So I'm providing you a normative definition. So for those who are in the academia, I think you would understand when I say normative definition. So according to Oxford Languages, democracy is a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. And according to Dr. Sarah Stitzline, an educational philosopher and professor in the University of Cincinnati, she agrees with the definition. And democracy is a formal system of government in America. And she adds that it is an informal way of life in America. So for me, when she said, quote unquote, informal way of life, informal in the sense, this is just my opinion, in the informal because democracy serves as a guiding principle and not a law. So I will just simplify this. So it further means though that you don't you will not be imprisoned if there are some undemocratic act that you have committed. This is just a simplified. So it's not a law, but a guiding principle. So they, I think that is what she meant when she said informal way of life. So how about the word education? So education comes from the root word educate. Okay, the word educate comes from the Latin word educare, which means to lead out. So education, in a literal sense of its meaning, is a process of leading out. So in a perspective of a teacher, you are educating the youth because it is part of a process of leading them out. Okay, now the question is, where am I leading my students out? right? So for us also teachers, maybe we're taking our master's degree, our doctor's degree. We are also immersed in the process of education. So we are in the process of being led out. But the question is, where to? Where are we supposed to be led out? And where are we supposed to lead out our students in the process of education? Okay, so there is a thinker by the name, or there was a thinker by the name of Charlie Cobb. No? According to him, education should equip us to think about the circumstances of our lives and how they might be otherwise. So, in other words, when we are educated, we should know our current situation, our real situation, and how we should be able to know how to change it. So the leading out then is this. First, we should make sure that we know what our current situation is. And the leading out, therefore, is providing our students or providing ourselves how can we change our situation to lead us out from the old circumstances, from the old situation to a new one. And I hope this new set of circumstances are better than the old one. And that's a function, or maybe one of the functions of education. And you know that you have been educated when you know what is exactly the real situation and you know how to change it. Okay, I hope that's clear. And how about, so we have already defined two words so far, democracy, education, and lastly, the third word is accountability. So what does the word accountability mean? The closest synonym or word that has the same meaning as accountability is responsibility. So personally, and I think many of you, if not all of you, will agree with me that accountability is really a good thing in education, right? So education process, even teachers, parents, students, and administrators do have the responsibility. Right? As teachers, we have responsibility to our students, most especially. But the question is this: how does accountability function in the United States? Specifically, how does accountability function in the U.S. public education? And this is where we can answer the question: how do democracy, education, and accountability relate or affect each other? So let me check if there are any comments so far or questions. Okay, I think we're good to go. So, so when you talk about accountability in the US public school system, the first thing that will come in our minds is high stake testing, usually in the form of statewide tests, okay? Or others would say statewide testing or state testing or standardized test. So for those who are not familiar, a statewide test is a high stake test which will be administered in the entire state. A statewide test usually happen in the months of late March to around late April. So a statewide test is high stake because a lot of important things are at stake and big ones. So for those who are aspiring to be teachers in the United States, and for those who are aspiring to migrate to the United States, and for those who just want to know, okay, this next part would really be relevant to all of you. And this is about that standardized testing slash state testing slash statewide testing slash high stake testing. So why do we say that the stake testing is a high stake testing? Here's an example. No? The results of this test determines the letter grade of a school. And just if for those who are not familiar, letter grade would mean A, B, C, D, right? And A is the highest, and F is a failure, a failing mark. Okay, so the letter grade is published publicly, so everyone can see it. And if I'm not mistaken, you can access this information through the website of the Department of Education. So it is publicly available. So everyone will know it. Everyone, because everyone can see it. And here's the thing. Since the letter grade is publicly published, and again, this letter grade is one of the factors that affect the school letter grade is the school's results in the test, in the statewide test. No? This letter grade can greatly influence parents' decisions. For those who are looking for a new house, for example, one of the things that they would consider when choosing a house, when choosing a neighborhood, is really the quality of schools. Now, if a school has a low letter grade, chances are parents would decide not to have their child enroll in that school. So how does this affect the school? This is the thing. The funding that goes to every school, one of the factors whether the school will be funded or not, I mean, the size or the amount of the funds that a school would receive would be affected by the number or the size of the enrollment for that year. So if the school, I hope you can see the ripple effect. If the school has low results or poor results in a standardized test, and then the school will have a low letter grade published publicly, and parents will see it. Parents will be discouraged to have their children enrolled to that school, and low enrollment would mean low funding. So it is a high stake because the funding of a school is greatly affected by the results of these state testing. Now, another one, according to Ann Sutherland of the University of Michigan. So this is a scary one, and this is according to her, and I think the context here is Michigan, but she provided some details. So currently, according to her, 38 states reward or sanction schools on the basis of children's performance on state developed assessments, with sanctions including written warnings, threatened intervention, removal of administrators, funding penalties, and even complete takeovers. So the more it becomes a high stake test because of these consequences. So according to her, the first step is if your school has a low letter grade, administrators will receive written warnings, and then threaten intervention, and then removal of administrators, and funding penalties, and even complete takeovers. So what I heard when I was teaching, if a school, I think, has a consecutive years of letter grade F. So again, if a school has a letter grade of F for 3 consecutive years, what I heard, there will be a complete takeover by the state. And by complete takeover, it would mean that there would be a change in the composition of the administration. Right? So according further to Dr. Sutherman of University of Michigan, by April 2001, more than 800 of Michigan's 3,128 public schools were deemed at risk of losing accreditation and state takeover if fewer than 25% of its students meet state standards on the Michigan Educational Assessment Program tests. So I think the worst case scenario for a school, for a poorly performing school is that there would be a shutting down of school. I think that's the worst thing to happen. Now, if there are negative consequences, there could be positive consequences for good performing schools. And according to Johnson, to Dr. Johnson in the year 2001, trophies are awarded to top performing school, and high school students doing well are awarded $2,500 scholarships to college. Okay, so those are the the consequence of a poor performing school and the benefits of being a high performing school. And in addition, Topo in 2001, another author said a proposal by the Bush administration to test all US children in grades 3 to 8 has been met by mixed reactions from parents and educators. Those schools that make too little progress will be given additional aid to improve. However, if children's performance is still considered inadequate after 2 years, it would be mandated that all children attending a low functioning school be offered the option of attending another school and taking their state funded support with them. And again, if you remove, if students move out to another school, this means removal of funding from their previous school. And removal of this funding from a school would mean shutting down the way school. So for those who are not aware, especially those who aspire to be teachers in the United States, uh, the schools here, they have developed a culture of around this statewide testing, and this is uh, this is crucial, important for administration, and important for many American people, because somehow they use this as a gauge of the quality of education and the quality of the school that you might be working with. Okay? And this may also reflect on the quality of teacher that you are. So that is why this is really a big deal to them. So what are the issues regarding this kind of accountability culture? Again, accountability is responsibility, and this functions in the United States through the statewide testing. Okay, so what are the issues around this? Number one issue, statewide testing. I think they forgot that statewide testing is an assessment. Personally, I agree with this statement, and I think educators would agree with this. Now, since it is an assessment, um, in our education courses when we were in college, we would know that the function of assessment is to inform instruction. So if assessment, just like the statewide testing, is to inform our instruction, how to improve our teaching, how to improve our services in school, then statewide testing and its results, whatever the result is, should not penalize or punish teachers or schools. And this is, I think, the biggest issue of uh, taken by many, if not most, or all locals or locals here, the teachers most especially. Since it is an assessment, it is meant to to inform us on what to improve, not to punish teachers, not to punish schools, right? So assessment has a place in education, but others are arguing that the statewide test results should not be used to penalize, or others would say penalize or punish schools. Okay? And you see, um, so if one of the consequences of, as I've said, is closing of schools. Now, others are do argue, um, if how can a school improve if you're closing the school, right? So that's one of the arguments and issues that others are taking or thinking about. And issue number two of the accountability culture in the United States, specifically in the public education. The results of testing, so the results of statewide tests may have been due to different factors. Many studies found out that schools in richer communities perform better. In fact, the socio-economic status of a neighborhood or of a community is, are, is found to be one of the factors or one of the things that may affect or is related to the level of performance of a school. The richer, the better. The poorer, the worse the students perform. So again, according to research, most of the affected children in a poor performing schools, if they are asked, for example, to transfer to a better performing school, research says that most of these same children will also take with them their lack of experience and skill development, lack of family support, and higher rates of special needs. So, unless the new school is better able to cope with these children in terms of accumulated learning deficits and unmet personal needs, the problem will simply be shifted from one context to another, although it may be better hidden and less of a social and political irritation. Moreover, for those families who are unable to provide transportation or do whatever it takes to find a more hopeful learning environment, their children will be left in schools in which future test scores are sure to be even more negatively skewed. So, some researchers argue that it's not the penalties that would encourage schools to improve, because since there are a lot of factors that may affect the testing results of children, they are suggesting why not we address them too. So, what's happening, according to them, in the accountability culture in the public school education, um, penalizing the teachers and the school is just targeting one aspect and ignoring all bunch of others, just like family support, poverty, right, and special needs. So think about that. Think about it. And for those who are aspiring to be teachers, um, please be aware that you will have students with baggages. And by baggages, this could include skill deficits, poverty, right? Lack of family support. And just a reality check, most of the foreign teachers are hired to be teachers in a school district or specifically a school wh- whose whose students belong to the below average socioeconomic status. Most of the time, you will be hired to be teachers in those schools. So be prepared for this, and um, and this might help understand and equip yourselves with strategies. Mentally prepare yourself to be teachers to students who most especially need your help and understanding. Okay. So let me pause for a while and check if there are any comments. Let me just have a sip of water. Okay, so the question now is, how does this accountability culture, the statewide testing, threaten democracy? So according to Dr. Sarah Stitzline, again from University of Cincinnati, because of testing, there are language and terminologies that the public do not fully understand. And again, may I just emphasize this? This is just one of the reasons, okay? There are a bunch of reasons according to experts. But one of the reasons why democracy is threatened through statewide testing is because not everyone fully understands the language of the language uh, of accountability or the statewide testing. Okay, so let me just explain further. So what if not all understand that the language and terminology used when we are processing the results of the testing? You see, here's the thing. Democracy is about participation of the public and deliberation by the public. That's uh, one of the furies of democracy. So just imagine if there are things you don't understand, how will you able to participate? And if there are things you don't understand or fully understand, how will you be able to deliberate or evaluate? So that is why with statewide testing, according to some advocates of democracy and experts in educational philosophy, may threaten or is threatening democracy. And also another reason why or thought why this threatens democracy. With statewide testing, it appears that schools are accountable to the government. Is this is there something wrong about this notion? Well, I let us recall some of some definitions and statements or remarkable statements in history, and I hope you remember this. The statement says, in a democracy, a government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Hence, the power of the government comes from the people. So this means the government should be accountable to the people, right? It's not the other way around. With this, according to some advocates and experts, with statewide testing, it appears that the schools, and by schools we mean teachers, school administrators, are accountable to the government. Why? What happened? You see, because of statewide testing, there will be letter grade that will be assigned to the schools based on the testing results. So what will happen is, according to some experts, the public will point its finger to schools when the testing results are low. when in fact, no, some experts observe, and as I have mentioned before, there had been a relationship between the level of poverty in the community and the testing results. The poorer the community where the school is located, the poorer is the performance of the students. So they were thinking that uh, in order for the government to show accountability to its people, to the public, they should increase funding, not take away the funding. In fact, there had been an observation uh, recorded in Mississippi. No? There was a law passed in Mississippi wherein that ensures that uh, the Department of Education or the educational system in Mississippi should be fully funded. And for years, they had been fully funding the education in Mississippi. And they observed that the testing results really significantly improve. So there must be uh, a significant impact of funding education, right? And now Mississippi is under hot seat again. The government is under hot seat because they're trying for many years, for a couple of years. I'm not so sure. I can't exactly pinpoint the number of years. Education has been not fully funded in Mississippi. So there had been a decrease, and they observed that there was a decrease in the testing results or the testing performance of students in Mississippi. And then there was a report that despite the decrease of funding in education, they saw really actually uh, an increase in the testing performance. But uh, but there was a caveat to that, right? The increase that they saw in the testing performance of students was found in the fourth grade here in Mississippi. And teachers and scholars argue that there was an increase, and they sort of reminded the government there was an increase in fourth grade. And at the same time, they reminded the government that they actually increased the funding or focused the funding in fourth grade level. So maybe that's a proof or one of the proof that funding schools or even fully funding education will bring about better results. Okay? So if maintaining democracy is one of the most long-standing goals of education, then both the government and the public should be accountable. So here's a stand of Dr. Stitt's line, okay, that yes, the government is accountable to the people, but both the government and the people, the public, us, are accountable and responsible for education or to education. So, okay, so let me check if there are any questions. So now we okay, and here's another findings from a research group called EdBuild. Okay, um, so according to let me just read the findings here. So again, it was found out that schools in low socioeconomic communities are performing poorly. One way that a government can do to solve this poor performance of students is really eradicate poverty. Okay? So according to EdBuild, they found out that high-performing schools teach the content of the curriculum, but poor performing schools spend their time and resources on test preparations. And again, this adds to the cycle of the problem. Right? When a school is poorly performing, the instructions, most importantly, should be improved. And I think teachers will agree with this. So it is just like preparing for example, a test. You know, what is the best way to prepare for a test? You might ask, diba? Actually, the answer to this is the best way to prepare for a test is study, listen to class discussion, right? Listen to the teachers, do your assignments, perform or participate in school activities like reading assignments, right? Group work projects. So you don't really need testing techniques if if students are well equipped at the stage of instructions or teaching. So because of the accountability culture in the United States, many schools are spending more time preparing students to take the tests by teaching them testing techniques, buying books and other resources to help them prepare for the test. Well, in fact, according to experts, the best way to prepare a test is improve instruction and also address factors that affect the psychological health of students. And these are the two things that the government and maybe some of us are guilty that we did not pay attention to address them. So this will be the last point of the live stream and in the future this recorded video. What are our responsibilities in supporting democracy in the age of accountability? And I'm thinking we cannot get rid of the testing or the statewide testing. Not soon. I don't know if it will be removed in the future, but for me, not soon, not in the near future. Okay, so they will stay. But while there is still this accountability culture in the United States through or in the form of statewide testing, what can we do in order to support democracy uh, in the age of accountability? Okay, so, and by we, I'm referring to if you're a teacher, parent, school administrator, this may apply to you. So let me just emphasize this. As citizens in a democratic country, it is also our responsibility to improve our country's educational system. So this may not also be this may not only applicable to the US, for those other countries who are providing public education, and maybe most especially countries who are following the democratic form of government, maybe these are applicable to all of you. So one way to fulfill your responsibility in supporting democracy is number one, be engaged in school matters. In school business, be engaged. Now, I'm not saying that you go there to your child's or student's school complaining every day. So, so it does not mean to complain a lot. It may appear that you are complaining when you are just pushing what you personally want. So for me, it's a complaint if you're just pushing your self-interest, only your interest. Remember, in democracy, you have to remember you are promoting collective action toward shared interest. In fact, Dr. Stitzline pointed out that organizing with others is a way of engaging in school matters while promoting collective action toward shared interest. So just hold on for a second. Oh, I think I'm running out of battery. Okay, so so just to explain further point number one, if there is an issue in the school that you think is a shared interest or a common or a collective issue of other parents or teachers, then that is a good starting point to be engaged. You can organize a group, meet, talk about it, and then as a collective group, make a proposal how to improve or address the issue in school. Okay. Number two, or a second way to perform or to fulfill your responsibility to support democracy is participate in school governance. So, according to Thomas Jefferson, schools are a responsibility of citizens from the start. And again, according to Dr. Stitzline, she pointed out that one way of participating in school governance is learn about and vote for school board members based on whether their proposed policies are for the common good. Always remember, democracy or the results of democracy is for the common good. Okay? So we can engage in campaign elections and public debates. We can also write to our lawmakers. Okay? And if these are not enough, Dr. Steinlens would suggest that you may run for an office. Why not? If you have the skills, the guts for it, go ahead, run for office, and maybe that is a way to push what is to push the common good for a collective shared interest. Okay, and lastly, again, Dr. Steinlein have a lot of suggestions, and most of and these suggestions came from her book, entitled American Public Education and the Responsibility of Its Citizens. So if you can grab this book, she made some more suggestions. So I'm pointing out just three among many in this book. I pointed out three because I think these are the three things that are the most doable. Okay? So number three, and this might help the teachers out there to give you some idea to become democratic teachers. No, I'm not talking about political party, but democratic, or uh, a teacher who promotes democracy in your own sphere, in education, and even parents. So number three, or the third way to fulfill your responsibility to support democracy in public school system, we can work in the schools. So aside being a teacher, there's another way to work with schools. Okay, of course, the epitome of working in a school is to be a teacher. But what if that is not your niche, right? That is not for you, that you are not built to be a school teacher. So you may not be a teacher in a school, but you can volunteer to teach. And this is what they call as co-production. Again, co-production. This is not just teaching or sharing what you know to students. Co-production is part of an effort aimed at solving community problems. So you may participate in a co-production. You have to bear in mind that what you will be sharing should equip students in solving problems in the community. So I hope that's clear. Again, the word is co-production, and maybe you can uh, initiate this in your own schools, right? Co-production. So, for example, no, President Obama was hoping to increase the number of graduates pursuing advanced manufacturing in order to keep the economy strong. Maybe as an engineer, maybe you as a parent is an engineer, okay, or anyone who, or any of, uh, or a teacher. If you're a teacher, you know someone who is an engineer. So an engineer may volunteer to share his or her expertise in a school to offer supplemental STEM lessons. By STEM is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So STEM lessons in hopes of generating interest and increasing the offerings of the school. So again, if you are a teacher, invite maybe a parent who is an engineer or other professions in the STEM field. So, and that is what you call as co-production. Okay, so there are three words that we have defined, and I hope we have seen their relationship. No? And these three words are democracy, accountability, and education. And there are also three of the many ways how you can support democracy in the age of accountability. And that is be engaged, participate in school governance, and also you can work in and with schools. Okay? So let me check if there are any questions. So again, you don't need to worry about uh, okay. So if you have any comment, questions, and suggestions about the content in this video, please leave a message on the comment section below. So for those who have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel for more valuable content. And then again, everyone, tomorrow, July 4th, is the celebration of the Independence Day in the United States. So you can greet your family and friends who are in the United States by saying Happy 4th. So until next time, everyone. So this has been Andy, and I hope, again, if you find this video and other videos in this channel valuable, please do share them with friends and families. And don't forget, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Until next time.